everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first IRL conference in 2 years, so I'm super excited for this to be the occasion. So I'm Karin Eldor. I'm a senior contributor at Forbes, and I'd like to welcome all these brilliant panelists. If you can each introduce yourselves and quickly give your brand mission.
Hey, I'm Drummond, the co-founder of Superette and the chief brand officer. For those that don't know, Superette is a cannabis retail brand based in Canada. We have retail stores in Toronto, Ottawa, as well as a portfolio of cannabis product brands and lifestyle items in our stores and select retailers across Canada. We really started Superette to challenge the norms of what have become cannabis retail and take a more retail-centric lens to the cannabis space.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Wendy, and I've had the privilege of being at the beginning of two industries, one content creation, another one CBD after the Farm Bill was passed in 2018. But I've been a content creator for over 10 years, and have grown my audience for over 2 million on YouTube and Instagram. And basically after 2018 and early 2019, my partner and I started Artemis, which is a retail store in the West Village. And we're the only store with a chief medical advisor. It's the cannabis physician, Dr. Jayla Chen. But we take our client care at the top priority. We spend as much time as we can with all of our clients to really welcome personalized wellness.
Hi, I'm Sonny Gindi. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. I'm the co-founder of Store. At Store, we work with the media companies to bring their experience to life into retail. At the core of our mission, it's how do we bring meaningful, rich content into retail. Our first store, our first title is Allure, and we have a store in the corner of Broome and Lafayette. So come by and shop.
Hi, I'm Brett Heyman. Again, thank you for having me. I am the founder and creative director of Edie Parker and Flower by Edie Parker. Flower by Edie Parker, we like to say, is the first brand to merge the worlds of fashion and flower. We're a line of colorful collectibles for friends in high places. And we sell cannabis and cannabis accessories everywhere. I mean, not everywhere, but at Superette, our favorite store.
So I love a good founder story and a good pivot story. So I'll start with you, Brett. You know, your pivot is pretty non-linear and unconventional from fashion to cannabis. And also shout out to the fact that I saw you sparking up at the CFDA Awards last night. So, but that's such a testament to where we're at in terms of fashion and cannabis and CBD merging so seamlessly. So I wanted to know, what was the spark moment that led to the pivot to you launching Flower by Edie Parker?
Thank you. I don't know that, I don't call it a pivot. I think of it as just, we launched a company in 2010. Edie Parker is named after my daughter. It's always very confusing because my name is Brett, but after I had her, I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial, more creative. And so I launched Edie Parker because I had collected vintage acrylic clutches from the 50s and 60s. Does my voice sound weird, by the way? That's
No.
From the 50s and 60s, always since high school, and I wanted to remake them and sort of pay homage to this time when America is setting fashion trends globally. And so as we were very, very specific, and we gained market share in this specific area of evening bags, and then launched personalization and home. So cannabis wasn't a pivot to us as much as it was a brand extension, like a new category, because we didn't want to make shoes, we didn't want to make ready to wear, we wanted to make things that we thought didn't exist that excited us. And we're a group of 10 women in the office. The use of cannabis is a part of our lives in like a really fun, celebratory way, the way that Edie Parker handbags were. They surprise and delight, they're for evening. And so we felt like there were no cannabis accessories, or few cannabis accessories on the market, I should say, that were considered and playful and really giftable. I think historically things had been masculine or medicinal or things that you would hide away in your drawer. So that's how the idea was born, to make cannabis accessories that felt like the accessories we had been making for 8 to 10 years at that point. And through that research and going to dispensaries and discovering other flower brands at a dispensary level, we also felt like nobody was really speaking to us, speaking to women, speaking to people who just unabashedly like to get high, have fun. We talk a lot about sex and cannabis. as part of our brand ethos. So that's why we did it.
I love that. And as you mentioned, you're available at Superette. So Drummond, I wanted to know, can you share, something about Superette that I love is that you pride yourself on your locations really adapting to the neighborhoods that you open in. Can you share why that's your guiding light in terms of your opening strategy and choosing your locations?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're really just trying to create a memorable retail experience. And so that's a starting point when we look at real estate and where we want to be. But I think if you look at the legal industry, and it's still in its infancy, it's becoming more and more homogenous every single day. Every retailer is starting to look the same, carry the same products, treat customers the same way, and they're pretty much these purely transactional environments. And for us, that's not the only way to do retail. And so for Superette, each aesthetic experience and even value proposition changes by store. So most recently we opened a store in downtown Toronto called Sip and Smoke, which only has beverages and pre-rolls and is like a full-on express format. So we're challenging what can be sort of the norms for cannabis retail, but when you look at traditional retail, there's nothing new about having a sole value proposition or only carrying two categories. But in a space where everyone's trying to do the same thing and carry the same products, it feels unique and different.
Yeah, totally. And something, Wendy, I had the pleasure of stopping by Artemis yesterday in the West Village. And, I love that you really created like a refuge of calm in there in terms of the merchandising and the whole vibe. Can you share your strategy on how you do that? I feel like there's a lot of retailers in the audience who for sure will get inspired on how you create that aesthetic and that feeling.
So thank you so much. So I think that calmness comes in two ways. One is the actual presentation of the store. So when we built the store, everything was actually hand done, and we wanted users to come into the store and feel like it was someone's home. And this is a recommendation from a close friend or a family member versus a very commercialized way of conducting business in that sense. So every cement pieces was done by me or Colin. We chipped every piece, and we really sun-dyed every piece too. So the store experience, it's really that sensory feeling that you get from the visuals to, we actually have a terpene bar too, so you can smell everything before you buy it to make sure that you know what you're tasting, and just, very calm music and everything. But I think the second part to really encourage that calmness is actually how we treat our clients. So we take it at their step, at their level, and at their pace. So if they're looking for something very simple, we really address the root causes. If they're looking for something more complex, we'll actually work with our physician and other dispensaries to make sure that we get the dosing right with THC and CBD for them. So we're really trying to figure out a full, holistic, personalized care approach from the very beginning to the very end.
I literally could have stayed there for hours, by the way. No, it was really, I felt so calm, and even just, I love that you don't take CBD literally in terms of the fact that, there were even literature, classic literature books and nodes to philosophy. So I thought that was great. So a big topic, a hot topic, obviously, is seamlessly merging online with IRL and the IRL experience. And Sonny, as you mentioned, you're working with the Allure store to create that seamlessness. So I'd love to hear from each of you if you each have thoughts on that. But Sonny, if you can kick it off on how you do that.
Yeah, I think this is an important question for all retailers to answer, not just people who work with media companies. We live in different worlds, right? Our consumer behaviors are different than they once were 10, 20 years ago. So retail needs to change just like our consumer behaviors changed. We shop very differently than our parents shopped. But if you walk into a store now, it's still the same experience. So I think the problem that we all as retailers need to solve and to look at is, how do we bring in the experience that a person gets while shopping online or on Instagram into retail? And I don't mean more selfie moments. What I mean is educational, meaningful, and rich content. So at the Allure store, what we do is we have QR codes under every single product, where a person's able to scan this QR code and be brought to that product's page, where you could watch content, see imagery, see a video, see a tutorial, get information that will help you succeed at the shopping level. The same education that you get while you're at home on social. And on social, you convert, right? You know better than I do. If I'm online and I'm watching a influencer talk about a product, that will inspire me to buy it because I trust them. In retail, you don't get that. Like, what's a mannequin? I walk into Uniqlo and there's mannequins everywhere. How does that make it? What size is that mannequin? How does that help me shop? Why aren't there iPads all over the store showing me models in the clothes that I want to buy, just as if I'm home shopping? At the Allure store, there are iPads on every single shelf showing the products where you're able to browse as if you're at home shopping online. So for us, what we try to do is bring in meaningful moments and value drivers that a person gets online into retail to create or to take away as much friction as possible on the ground.
I love that, and that's so on point. You're so right. Wendy, do you have, coming from the content creator world, you started as a blogger and with Wendy's Lookbook. What are your thoughts on that as well?
I think CBD and cannabis is tough on social, mainly because you can't sell it. I can wear this dress and have a bite now, and you're okay with it, but we get flagged, we get blocked, and we get shut down. So I think the rules and regulations have to change in regards to that. I think there's safety protocols that needs to be met. I understand that. But you can buy supplements at Sephora online, and that's okay. You don't have a COA for that or anything like that. So I think the industry is going to slowly change to hopefully making it more approachable to have it be more accessible to people when it comes to online. But I do think the struggle is very real, and it is very tough to convey that connection with your consumers right away on those Instagram channels that we have that's so available to us.
Yeah, I love that. And Sonny, how you said just about storytelling and creating moments. So I have a marketing background in communications, storytelling, branding. Obviously, you're all pros at this. So that's something I'd love to dive into as well, just about the importance of playful storytelling, unique storytelling. And although CBD and cannabis is, of course, a serious category right now, there's so much room for playfulness and having a unique POV. Can you each speak to that? Like Brett, for example, obviously you're a master at the cheekiness, and I heard you on a podcast, Second Life, how you referred to it as irreverent, and that's so true. And like the customizable bodega bag. So how do you do that, and why is storytelling so critical today for these brands?
I think that every brand, this word gets overused, but I think it's really true. I think every brand has to have that authenticity associated with it, right? So like our brand has always been irreverent, sort of whimsical in our captions, in our design, in our use of color, in our playfulness, in the words that we put on products. And so it's also how we approach cannabis and where we thought there was white space, because I didn't think there was anything that was like extremely colorful, extremely feminine, extremely kind of lighthearted, for lack of a better word. So that's just been authentic to our brand story, and all of our ancillary products reinforce that. Everything has like that little wink or a nod to something it's a great gift. It doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't, like, we appreciate all of the health and wellness benefits, and we are in serious conversations, but we like to say at Edie Parker that life is serious and your accessories don't have to be. So that's just what we go with.
Yeah, I love that. Drummond with Superette, you do your branding. I mean, first of all, it's obviously it skews feminine. Like, are people ever shocked when they meet you as the founder?
I'm the silent co-founder.
Oh, okay. So yes. But no, it's how did you develop that branding?
I mean, we looked at the space, and there are outliers here, so don't take this as the only way, but for us, there was MedMen coming in with the Apple Store. There was, the legacy market, which was just transitioning, and then there was sort of like the uber premium, sleek, minimal, and there's just a lot of white space to play in. And so for us, we leaned into more traditional retail environments, which then leaned into more nostalgic retail environments. And what we were really doing is creating environments that people already knew how to interact with. So if you came in and you say that, this Superette looks like a bodega, or, there's diner stools, or it looks like a grocery store, all they're really saying is we know how to interact with these elements. And so we doubled down on that and used that to create these really fun, more immersive retail environments.
Yeah, I love that. The bodega vibe is very clear. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And, you each have impact and community as pillars in your brands. Can you speak to that, like in terms of the importance of impact in your brand missions? Oh, Wendy. Yeah.
So part of Artemis is that we actually have a community care program. And what that is that if someone comes in the store and they can't afford the CBD products that we have, we'll actually reach out to the brands that we carry and ask for it for above wholesale price, leaning towards free. And we actually built a whole program for them. We also have a community care liaison that would also provide any additional support. So if you need housing support, diapers, food, anything, they'll reach out within a radius of 10 miles of where you live and just accumulate any type of resources or services that's available to you. And I think the reason why this is so important to me was that I actually grew up in foster care, and by the time I was 18, I was one application away from being homeless. I applied to every school there was, and I got rejected to every school except UC Berkeley. So if I was rejected from UC Berkeley, I would actually have been homeless. And so this aspect of community care is really the DNA of me and the DNA of Artemis, and we take it very seriously. And we tell all of our brands who we onboard, if there's ever a situation where we need you for a particular case, that's a part of the onboard process with us as well.
Sonny, I know you have a community vibe at Allure store, so I'd love to hear more about that as well.
First off, that's incredible, guys. The Allure store is truly a community for both our brands and customers. A really cool thing about the store is that every brand in our store is able to use our space as their own venue. Right? So brands could book up to 3 events a quarter. So we have 3 events a day, pretty much. We had 460 events booked in 6 months of being up. So that in itself has built something, right? The store has become a thing. It's become the #1 beauty destination for events in New York. I mean, what other venue have had 420 events in 6 months post-COVID? So that in itself is building. And on top of that, what we've seen that's like a cool surprise is that our brands are beginning to collaborate with each other. So if, Thursday, 2 Korean beauty brands, Amore Pacific and Pure AM, they are both in our Q4 cohort. They reached out to each other via our Slack channel and said, hey, let's bring together our funds, let's bring together our reach and blow it out. So now they're having an event on Thursday with 200 RSVPs. So that in itself is building community within brands. Brands are meeting each other here that they've never met or where they hope to meet one day. And then from the shopper experience, what we're seeing is that the people who are coming out are content creators, young content creators who are trying to kickstart their career. I heard a stat that 80% of all young people want to be influencers when they grow up.
Oh, I know, I heard that. That's so terrifying.
That's a real stat, and with that comes truth. With that comes people who are looking to create content. So the store has become a spot where young content creators come down, and now they have a place to shoot. They have products to demo. They have brands to meet. They have other people that could help their own careers. And then young beauty artists, makeup artists, and hairstylists, they're all coming down to the store to meet each other and brands. So community is at the forefront of the store, and it's such a delight to us as the founders and people who work there because we're seeing it grow before us.
Yeah, and sorry, I want to take that back. Wendy, you're actually a perfect example of an influencer who is also a successful entrepreneur with a mission. So, yeah, so that's truly inspiring. So I'd love to, retail is my #1 jam. I'm obsessed with retail as a consumer and as a storyteller. So I'd love to hear from each of you, because retail is also the essence of why we're here today. What are some of the takeaways or your thoughts on the future of this space and how it looks in mainstream retail? Because this category, it's basically a typical CPG category right now. So yeah, I'd love if you can each share just your takeaways and maybe future projections.
I mean, I think you said a little bit of it right there. Like, it's CPG and it's retail. And I think right now in cannabis and CBD as well, we're treating it like it's some different category. And so a lot of basic retail principles, from merchandising to the customer journey, community initiatives, are sort of being forgotten. And I think the future of cannabis retail is the future of any traditional retail, which is omni-channel, community-oriented, hyper-local, immersive retail experiences, and in different categories, from beauty to wellness to premium to value. Like, it's going to catch up, and it's going to be a real category.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
The future of retail. I think that retail is in an interesting time. And I don't mean, what the Superette does, what you guys do, because it's different, right? Because you guys are more experiential at its core. People come in and it's like going to a restaurant, right? So the retail that I do is more traditional in the sense of people come in and they buy something, right? So you have to add different layers to it. So I think in general, retail is at an influx. They're like, okay, so why do I matter, right? What are my value drivers to both the consumer and to my brands who are in the store? Because if I don't create something interesting, if I don't create something that's of value, then somebody will stay home and shop online and go eat at a restaurant and then go home and shop via Instagram. So the future of retail needs to really look at itself and figure out, how do I grow and meet my customer where they are? And like I've mentioned before, it's built around content, it's built around events, it's built around energy. So yeah, the future of retail, it will exist. There will be stores. I promise you guys, there will be stores all around the world that sell things in it. How they get that product in a person's hands, that's the question. But I think it starts with content, right? So let's start there, and then see where it goes.
Love that. Brett, I'd love your thoughts on this, especially as someone envisioning, a brick and mortar boutique on Bond Street and right here in New York City, and especially as someone who's meshing your both brands, home accessories and fashion and flower.
Well, I think that's the opportunity for us. I mean, we're not a multi-brand retailer, so I think the opportunity for us is to sort of alleviate some of that confusion that still exists when they're like, I don't understand, you make expensive handbags and cannabis. So to sort of show the world of Edie Parker, like, what does this world look like? What does this place look like where you'd want to take your tray and roll a joint on your beautiful tray and use your tabletop lighter? So that's very exciting for us. And also, the content piece of the selfie moment. Like, what does a huge pre-rolled joint box look like? And what does the perfect couch that you want to, smoke in and ask forgiveness and not permission look like? So that's really, for a single brand and a small brand like ours, that's where we're focused on the Bond Street store.
I heard a quote that you said, being Canadian, it resonated. Actually, Drummond and I are both Canadian. But you had said, like Wayne Gretzky, you wanted to go where the puck wasn't. That was a great...
I grew up in LA, so he's an LA hockey player to me. But yes, and I think that's important. I think just, we made a lot of missteps. I've been in business now almost 12 years, so there are a lot of things that I've done that I didn't need to do, and that's when I tried to solve like being everybody to everybody, everything to everybody who was buying from us. And I think like if you're a single brand, like focus on what you're good at, focus on the holes, provide something that not everybody else is providing, and go where the puck isn't.
Yeah, I really, what's the word? I really highlighted the Canadian stereotype of hockey and Canada, but it's true. I feel like Canada owns Wayne Gretzky, but he is LA. You're right, sorry.
We can share him, it's fine.
Yeah. I wanted to dive in. If you guys, we have just a couple more minutes, and then we can open it up for a couple of questions. But if anyone has final thoughts on, what legal cannabis will look like at the retail level in New York City.
I mean, I'm sure there's 50 people in this room that know more about that than me, but I think if you look at New York's relationship with retail and brands currently, I think it's going to be the epicenter of cannabis globally and probably the largest market. So, and I think it's maybe the catalyst to really push this industry to the next level.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think also what's interesting too is that there's consumption lounges in New York, and so we're curious to see how that plays out, whether that is small little cafes, or is it a consumption hotel or cannabis hotel? So that's really interesting too. And also home grow, right? So right now individuals can actually grow the cannabis themselves, 6 plants, 3 mature and 3 immature right now. So we're curious to see if that's going to be something that people really embrace, is to grow their own plants at home.
Yeah, I love that. So happy to take some audience questions. We have time for about 2, I think.
Hi there. Thank you all. First, very quickly, Wendy, that was an extraordinary origin story there. And as I'm sure you heard very recently, Forbes just came out with their top list of top universities in the United States. UC Berkeley was #1. First time a public university has been #1. Clearly, they're doing something right. Go Bears. Question for Drummond. As you see this retail industry transforming, how are you looking, if you are looking, how are you looking at your suppliers? What are you looking for in a supplier that may differentiate them and earn them space on your shelf?
I mean, it's a good question, and it's something that's a little bit difficult for me to answer being in Canada. The regulatory landscape is entirely different. So the government is the sole wholesaler currently. And until we move to a space where there's flow through and we can have a direct supply chain, obviously curation is hugely, hugely important, and even selling shelf space or working with suppliers in that regard. But current state, we don't have that flexibility. We will soon, but I wish I could answer that more wholeheartedly in the current state of the business.
Oh.
Hi, thank you all so much. I'm wondering from your perspective, especially now coming out of the pandemic when we're starting to come back into stores and shop, what's the most effective way to drive foot traffic, to invite people to your stores?
Free samples.
Good.
And free weed.
So I think events are very important. Piggybacking on what Sonny is saying, I think events are very important. Community events, collaborative events, creative events. So for us, before the pandemic, where we introduced that now, we're having a tincture tasting. And we're having edible tasting. So just little things here and there that will get people together.
Sonny's mentioned this a couple times, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think the role of physical brick and mortar stores is changing, and even if you look in the last 2 years with the pandemic, is people have been locked up and cooped up, and they're actually craving these experiences. So you just need to give it to them.
So true. They're creating connection, #1. So thank you so much. That was so much fun, guys. Thank you.